So I keep recording or trying to record a video to show people how to use DIM's loadout system, Destiny Item Manager's loadout system. And one of the things that I wanted to do before I showed the loadout specifically was to just kind of go in and show off some of the other things that DIM can do, because I think people don't realize just how powerful DIM is, or that how powerful DIM can be. But every time I've done this video, I'm struggling to keep it under half an hour, and I know nobody wants to watch anything that long. So this is just going to go over the loadout feature, and if there are things that are not necessarily clear, or if there is a desire for a more general overview of DIM, I will be happy to show that off. Real quick, DIM is Destiny Item Manager, app.destiny.itommanager.com. Go there, provide your Bungie credentials just like you would anywhere else, and you will get access to all of your characters and your vault. You can drag and drop anything around. You can bring anything into any character's inventory, and then if you are not logged in, or in orbit, or in the tower, you can actually directly equip weapons from here just by dragging them to your active slot. So this is a really powerful tool. I always have DIM open when I'm playing, just so I have access to everything without ever having to go back to my vault, without having to go into my phone and struggle with an app that is giving me 1/10 of the screen real estate. I just have it all right here, and it's incredibly helpful for me. Something that you might want to consider if you have easy access to a laptop. So, the progress, vendors, and records tab were things that I was going to go over, and there's so much more you can do with this inventory screen, but that's not really why we're here today. We're here to show the loadouts, and specifically making custom loadouts. So, the first thing I want everybody to know is that you absolutely can build a loadout in game and then simply save it within DIM for future use. That is totally within DIM's capabilities. I have this set up, by the way, to default so that it always shows my Warlock first. If you're building on a different character, you just simply click the character on the side, and you will have access to all of your builds. I only have made this one build so far. I've been playing around with this, and I actually trashed a bunch of my practice builds, and I'm going to start building them out for real in the same way that I did my Stag PvP Trials build. Yes, as ironic as it is that I, of all people, started with a PvP build when I was in here. But I don't have a Warlock Well of Radiance build set, so I'm going to build one now and kind of walk you through doing that. You can hit this Create Loadout button, and you can just pick everything by hand if you want. You can go so far as to picking your ornament and shader for every piece of gear. I don't like doing it this way. I think it's very cumbersome, and I find it much easier to use the Loadout Optimizer. So the first thing to know when you're in the Loadout Optimizer is that this, whatever it shows you at the top, is giving you your absolute highest possible gear that you can achieve without changing any elements and without masterworking anything new. You can tell it, in fact, that you don't care whether your items are currently masterworked or not, that you'll be willing to masterwork them if it makes your build work. And to do that, we're going to have to change this Assume Masterwork toggle here. You can set it so that it's only legendary that gets assumed masterwork, because exotic armor costs 3 golf balls to masterwork, so that's kind of pricey. Or you can just set it to all, and it will assume that you are capable of bringing any piece of armor in your collection up to 10 energy if it isn't already. So for this build, we're just going to do that, and we're going to click all and assume. And this now shows that this is now my highest possible build, although it is still a tier 32. Keep in mind, tier 32 seems kind of low. or if tier 32 seems kind of low, remember there are no mods in here yet. We are not getting any bonuses from a subclass. We are not getting any bonus from fragments. We are not getting any bonuses from any other types of mods. So just with base equipment, this is a tier 32 if all of these pieces were masterworked. You can drag your stats in order of preference. So even though this is showing me tier 32, this is also assuming that the most important stat is mobility, and that's simply because I have it on the top. Mobility is not my most important stat, especially on a Warlock well build. I want high resilience, and I want high intellect. And look at that, as I drag them, these all dynamically changed. So now it's trying to get me to tier 32 while also getting my intellect and my resilience and my intellect as high as possible. It also shifts the order of them around. But this is still trying to maximize this number, the 32, your highest overall stats. You might not want to do that. You might simply care more about just 2 or 3 stats. So how do you do that? Well, resilience, I see that the highest I can build based on my equipment is 9.5. I don't need it to get to 9.5 or to 10 because I can throw some mods in to make up the difference. So what if I say that at a minimum, I want my resilience to be tier 8? All right, well, I can do that here, but now you can see that my maximums have changed a little bit. Let's say that it's a well. I want to have the well up as often as possible. I need it to be tier 10. And so I switch it. Now here's 2 builds that I can have that will give me tier 8 resilience and tier 10 intellect. You'll notice I've dropped down to an overall tier 28. That's not great. But in order to get those 2 possible stats to that level, that's what I have to do. But there's a problem here, and that is that this has me equipping the Vesper of Radius, which does not help me in any way, shape, or form. So let's set these back to tier 0. We are building here a Well Warlock, so let's pick out our exotic. You can choose this to pick no exotic. You can choose this to pick any exotic because, say, you want to make sure that you're getting some type of advantage. You just don't care what it is. But for the purposes of Well Warlock, we really only have 3 good options: Phoenix Protocol, Lunafaction boots, and Boots of the Assembler. I am going to build this one around Phoenix Protocol. So by clicking Phoenix Protocol now, you can see that in every single one of these builds, it has my Phoenix Protocol equipped, no matter what. And like you can tell, there's just hundreds upon hundreds of options just based on the armor that I have in my inventory. So we've pinned that, and now, wouldn't you know it, the best we can do now is a tier 31 because we've locked ourselves into that. We also need mods. The most important mods for high-end content in the game are Charged with Light mods. These are all of your mods, by the way. This shows you every possible armor option. So, Last Wish, Vault of Glass, Garden of Salvation, Deepstone Crypt, Charged with Light. So, the backbone of any Charged with Light build, if you're not familiar, is taking charge. Become Charged with Light by picking up Orbs of Power. There's a lot of different ways to become Charged with Light. This is the easiest. This is the most universal. It's the one that you're going to be able to get the most often. There are definitely builds where that isn't true. There are definitely ways to optimize your character, either by using wells or by using specific weapons or by using finishers a lot. You can build it a lot of ways, but in terms of pure simplicity, in terms of absolute utility, taking charge is pretty much undefeated. I would never run a Charge with Light build without also including Powerful Friends, because when you become Charged with Light, nearby allies also become Charged with Light if they're not already. That's a huge benefit. This mod also provides 20 extra mobility, which is nothing to sneeze at. Now, it doesn't specify this here, but in order to take advantage of this 20 mobility, you either need to have another Arc Charged with Light mod equipped, or another arc mod in whatever piece of armor it is sharing with powerful friends. But fortunately, a wonderful pair to powerful friends is Radiant Light, especially on a Well Warlock. Casting your super causes nearby allies to become charged with light. So we have two different ways of making our allies get charged with light, in addition to just allowing ourselves to become charged with light by picking up taking charge. And Radiant Light gives us plus 20 strength. So we have 20 mobility and 20 strength, and we get charged with light whenever we pick up an orb. So, what are we going to do with these charges of light? Well, the most important thing by far is protective light. If you've never used protective light before, I don't know what you're doing because protective light is probably the single most important mod for high end content. Um, Raids, especially on Master, any sort of Master level content, Grandmaster Nightfalls. If you are hopping into a Grandmaster without Protective Light, I don't know what you're doing, buddy, because you are making it 1,000 times harder on yourself, and they're already hard enough. Protective Light, unfortunately, does come with a negative 10 strength, but it is still worth it because when you gain significant damage resistance against combatants when your shields are destroyed, this effect consumes all stacks of charge with light. The more stacks consumed, the longer the damage resistance lasts. With 2 stacks, I think you get about 10 seconds. You can build it up higher than 2 stacks, although none of my builds that I ever really do try to build it any higher. As a matter of fact, I usually only take these 4 mods. Um, a big part of the reason why is I want to make sure that I have those charges when I need them so that they can feed into protective light. I don't want to be spending them on other things accidentally. High energy fire is a great mod. It does increase your damage, but as soon as you get a kill, it eats one of your stacks of charge with light. If that stack was going to go to fuel protective light, well, you lose your damage resistance, and that's not great. The one other thing that I do occasionally plug in, however, is this mod, which is called Kindling the Flame. While charged with light, reviving a downed guardian gives you a burst of healing, consuming 1 stack of charge with light. Very important for raids and nightfalls where you're going to have to pick people up. This allows you to take a little bit of damage while you're going and rezzing their ghost, and then as soon as they wake up, you get full healing. Um, I will take that one for this, and then you notice once I've done that, I now have 5 charged with light mods. I can't click anymore because these all go into the end slot on your armor. You can only take 5 of them. So once you've got these mods picked out, it's important that you click this select mods button down at the bottom left. If you click the X, it just cancels out all your selections and you have to go in and do it again. I've done that dozens upon dozens of times. It's really annoying, so don't do that. Be sure to remember to click select mods. If you change your mind on anything, you just click the click the X, and it'll deselect that, and you can hop back in and out, and I'll show you how that works too. You can, if you so choose, put more mods in. I don't do this because I like those spots to be flexible. I want to be able to go in and say, all right, well, I don't have a rocket launcher on this build. I have a linear, so I don't want rocket launcher ammo finder. I want linear fusion ammo rifle, fusion rifle finder, linear fusion rifle ammo finder. I'm willing to make those choices as I'm equipping the build. I don't need them preset. If you want to make those preset because you know you're always going to use the same weapons with that build, by all means. If you're building around one specific exotic, if you're specifically building around sleeper, throw your linear mods on and you will always have those with you. The one thing I will recommend, at least for, until Witch Queen launches, is to not put in any of the artifact mods, any of the blue ones, because those are all going away. And as soon as they go away, it's going to tell you that you don't have access to them anymore. And it's going to essentially break all of your loadouts. You can fix them. You can go in and you can repair them, but that's just one other step that you have to take. It's probably better to just leave them out and add them in later. So we're going to do this. We're going to hit select mods. And now we jump up to a tier 34 because we're getting 2 from Radiant Light. We're getting 2 from Powerful Friends, 20 mobility, 20 strength. But then we're also getting -1, or -10, sorry, from Protective Light, which is taking away a strength. So this now shows our overall build. And this now shows what our maximums and minimums are based on these parameters. These parameters being, it has to include a arc, or actually 2 arc pieces of armor. 1 for Radiant Light, 1 for Powerful Friends. It must include 1 solar piece of armor for Kindling the Flame, and it must include 1 void piece of armor for Protective Light. And it has optimized to give me the best possible loadout given those restrictions. Now, let's say I want to, again, make this a tier 10 intellect build no matter what. Well, I can set that, and now it has taken things down a little bit. It dropped from a tier 34 to a tier 33. I need to, at the very least, improve this piece of armor to a 3 energy because it only has 1. But again, I now have 10 intellect. I max out at 6 resilience now if I'm forcing the 10 intellect. But I could, if I wanted to, get up to 8 mobility. So let's do that. Now there's only 2 builds that it will allow me to make. I don't actually want this tier 8 mobility, so I'm going to set it back to 0. And I don't actually want 10 intellect necessarily. I am fine with 7 or 8. And then the other thing that you can do is now that you have this, you can look and say like, all right, well, intellect and resilience, this is 3 and 6, this is 6 and 6, 6 and 6, 6 and 5. All right, let's go with this 6 and 6, and then I want to buff both of those up. So I'm going to go back into mods. But discipline, that's at 5.5. That's at 56 out of 100. So I can do add +5 mods, and it automatically slots a minor discipline mod, which bumps my discipline up a half point. And then I can go in and let's say I want to add 2 more resilience mods and 2 more intellect mods. And now we've got a T39 build. Look at that. 8 intellect, 8 resilience, 7 mobility, 5 recovery, 6 discipline, 5 strength. And now I can, as a matter of fact, do a tier 10 intellect and a tier 9, and a tier 9 discipline. And there we go. And that's the one and only build that will allow me to do that. It's going to mean taking 2.5 discipline. It's going to mean taking 5.5 strength and 6.5 mobility. And good lord, only 4 recovery. But there, I can do it. And in fact, we're over 100. So we can drop. Hang on. Go back to mods. We can drop one of the intellect mods and replace it with a minor intellect mod. And now we still have a tier 10 intellect. We're not wasting 3 more points of energy. And then when we go back and build, that's more points that we can have to work on this build with. So I am now going to save this loadout. We're going to call this Warlock, and Warlock, Phoenix, save. And go back to loadouts, and there it is, Warlock, Phoenix, Now, I can apply this, and when I hit apply, up here it is showing me that it is swapping everything out. One mod didn't fit on your current armor. Why not? Oh, I see. Okay, so remember when I said that we needed to masterwork some of these things? The game can know that you need this thing masterworked, but it cannot masterwork it for you. It cannot spend those materials for you. So in this case, I was not able to equip this particular piece of armor with the correct mods. So this is still a little bit broken, but that's okay. I can go back in and this will be equipped on my character. I can masterwork it, and then I can go back in and apply this again. But again, if I'm doing a Phoenix Protocol build and a Warlock build, that's going into Gambit activities. So, or I'm sorry, that's going to Vanguard activities. I happen to know that this is my shell that has the Vanguard mod on it. So I have that ghost shell associated with it now. It will always equip that ghost shell. Um, I can go and say that I always want my tiny little speeder because I don't have the cool 270 or 170 raid speeder, so I do want this equipped. So it will always pull all of those. Again, you can do emblems, you can do fashion fully, and then here we can actually set this to the solar subclass. And then what we want to make sure we do is we hit save so that it fully updates that with everything. So now this is the default loadout. One thing to show you really quick, back in the Loadout Optimizer, there is this button here for select subclass. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it only shows stasis right now. I assume that that is a bug within DIM and something that'll be fixed. But unless you're building a stasis build, you cannot pick the subclass from this screen. You have to do it from this screen. And I do believe that you have the option. Yes, see in here. It's not actually letting me pick which tree. It's only showing me what I currently have equipped. That I think is all just bugs and issues right now. With stasis, you can actually pick your aspects and fragments. So I assume that once Void goes live, you'll be able to do the same as well. We're just a little bit limited by this right now. But that's how you make a build and how you optimize a build. And, you know, I spent a lot of time talking about this, but if I wasn't explaining everything, I was able to go in there in 5 minutes and figure out, based on what I have in my vault and on my character inventory, this is the absolute best set of armor and the best stats that I can achieve if, in fact, that's what I want, and that is what I want. So I hope this makes it a little bit easier. I hope this demystifies things a little bit. And just know that, yeah, you can set any and all of these parameters and fiddle around to your heart's content. And now I never have to go and build a Warlock Phoenix well by hand, aside from picking, you know, the correct anti-champion mods and whatever. But then I'm just, you know, building around the edges, and that's not a ton of work. You know, I'm going to have a really good foundation of one of those builds without any major effort.